Once upon a time, in a green kingdom called Okofia, there was a princess named Amara. She had long dark hair and a smile that made people feel calm. Her father, King Eziani, loved her very much. Her mother, Queen Adama, dressed her in gold and jewels. Every day, men from rich families came to the palace. They bowed before the king and queen. They brought large chests filled with gold coins and fine cloth. They said nice words about Princess Amara's beauty. They spoke of how she would look on their arm. They made big promises about building grand houses and throwing feasts. Amara sat quietly as these men talked. She listened to them, list all the things they owned. Not one of them asked her what she loved or what kind of life she wanted. She tried to smile to be polite, but inside she felt tired. One of them, a man called Lord Keene, talked the loudest. He wore rings on every finger, and his voice filled the hall like a trumpet. "Your Majesty," Lord Keene said, stepping forward, his chin held high. "I have the biggest farm in 3 villages. I have cattle that fill the fields and guards that watch every corner. I have servants to cook, servants to clean, and servants to fan us when it is hot. A princess like Amara should marry a man like me. I have everything." King Eziani looked at his daughter. He saw the way her eyes drifted to the floor. He saw how she did not smile at Lord Keene. When the nobles left, he sat with her in the palace garden. The sun was setting, making the flowers glow orange. "My child," King Eziani said softly, "Lord Keene is very wealthy. Many would consider him a good match." Amara shook her head. "Papa, all of them see only my crown. They talk about my beauty, because it is attached to your throne. They never ask me if I like to read, if I like to dance, if I love to sit by the river to watch the moon. They want to marry a princess, not me." The king sighed. He placed his hand on hers. "It is hard, Amara. You are a princess. Men will always see the crown first." Amara lifted her gaze. Her eyes were bright with stubbornness. "Then let me remove the crown and see who still treats me like a person. I want to know if there is a man who will respect me when he thinks I have nothing. I need to know for myself, Papa." King Eziani looked at his daughter in surprise. He had never heard of a princess leaving the palace to be poor. "What are you saying?" "I want to leave the palace," she whispered. "I want to disguise myself as a village girl. I want to work, sell bread or vegetables. I want to meet people who do not know I am your daughter. It is the only way I will know who is kind and who is pretending." The king was silent for a long time. He thought of the dangers outside the palace walls. He thought of how his daughter had never cooked her own food, or carried anything heavier than a book. "It is not safe," he finally said. "You could be hurt. People could take advantage of you." "I know," Amara said, squeezing his hand. "That is why I will be careful. I will not go alone. Mama Neka will help me." Mama Neka was an older woman who had cared for Amara since she was a baby. She had lines on her face from years of laughing and worrying. She loved the princess like her own child. When Amara told Mama Neka her plan, Mama Neka placed both hands on Amara's shoulders and frowned. "Amara," she said, "palace life is soft. Your hands have never carried a basket on your head. Your feet have never walked on stones without shoes. The market is crowded. Men can be rude. Women can be unkind. You will miss your bed. You will miss the palace cook's food." Amara hugged her nurse tightly. "That is why I need you, Mama Neka. I need you to teach me. I cannot trust anyone else. If I stay here, I will marry a man who sees only gold. If I leave, I might find someone who sees me." Mama Neka closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about little Amara learning to walk in the courtyard. She thought of Amara falling and crying, and how she had always picked her up. She knew she could not stop Amara's strong will. She sighed and finally nodded. "All right, I will help you. But we must keep this secret. Only the king, me, and God will know." That night, while the queen slept, King Eziani went to his daughter. He held a small wooden box. He opened it and took out a thin carved bracelet. It had a small mark of the royal crest inside. "Wear this under your sleeve," he whispered. "If you ever need to prove who you are quickly, show this crest. But keep it hidden. I trust you, but I worry." Amara took the bracelet and slid it up her arm. "Thank you, Papa." She hugged him tight. He held her, as if he could keep her safe through his embrace alone. Before dawn, Under the first light of the morning star, Mama Naneka dressed Amara in a faded wrapper and an old blouse. They wrapped a simple cloth around her hair. They rubbed a bit of charcoal on her hands to make them look rougher. Amara looked at her reflection in a small brass mirror. For the first time, she looked like any village girl. Mama Naneka placed a tray on her head, filled with loaves of bread. The bread was not from the palace kitchen. Mama Naneka had bought it from a bakery in a far corner of the town. "Walk with your head high," Mama Naneka said. "Do not speak too much. Watch how the women walk. If anyone tries to cheat you, speak up. You are poor in clothes, but you are still a person." Amara nodded. Her heart beat fast. She turned one last time to look at her room. The bed with soft pillows, the wooden shelf with her books, the window that overlooked the royal garden. She took a deep breath, turned away, and stepped out. The palace gates opened quietly. The guards who were aware bowed and pretended not to see. Outside, the air was cool. Amara could smell the smoke from cooking fires and hear the faint crow of a rooster. The earth felt hard beneath her bare feet. The stars slowly faded as dawn crept in. Amara, carrying her tray, walked beside Mama Naneka down the path leading away from the palace. They did not walk on the main road. They went through a narrow path between bushes, one that only a few farmers used. As they walked, Mama Naneka whispered advice. "Remember, your name is Inma now. You come from a small village far from here. You have no family nearby. You are a bread seller." "Yes, Mama," Amara whispered. She kept her eyes on the path. It was still early when they reached the village called Umudara. The huts were simple, made of mud and straw. Thin threads of smoke rose from the roofs. The air smelled of roasted yams and firewood. The village rooster crowed again, and a goat bleated. Women in wrappers carried buckets of water on their heads. Men walked with hoes over their shoulders. Amara felt her heart race. She was far from her soft bed. She was far from the palace guards' watchful eyes. She was alone among people who might not care if she tripped or cried. She swallowed her fear. Mama Naneka pointed to a small clay house at the edge of the village. "That is Mama Aya's house. She is a widow. She rents a room. She believes you are my niece. She will keep your secret because she does not ask questions as long as she is paid." Mama Aya greeted them at the door. She was older, with a scarf tied neatly on her head. Her house smelled of herbs. She looked Amara up and down. She saw the plain clothes and the shy eyes. "This is my niece," Mama Naneka said. "She will sell bread in the market. She needs a room." Mama Iya nodded slowly. "I have a small room. It is not fancy. The floor is made of earth. The walls have cracks, but it is safe. If she keeps quiet and pays on time, she can stay." Her eyes softened when she saw Amara's nervousness. "Come in, child." Amara stepped into the small room. There was a small mat on the ground and a clay pot in the corner. Sunlight came through a tiny window. It was nothing like her palace room. She touched the wall. It was rough and cool. She sat on the mat and looked around. The fear in her chest turned into a strange excitement. She was no longer a princess sitting in a palace. She was a poor girl with a tray of bread. She smiled for the first time that morning. She was exactly where she wanted to be. Morning light filtered through the small window of the clay room, painting a yellow line across the floor. Amara woke on her mat, feeling the hard ground under her back. The smell of herbs drifted from Mama Aya's cooking. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered her tray of bread and her new name. She sat up quickly and pressed her hand to her heart to calm it. Mama Naneka had already left before dawn to avoid raising suspicion. Amara was alone. She wrapped her wrapper around her waist, tied a scarf over her hair, and balanced the bread tray on her head. She walked out of the house into the village. People were already busy. Children were sweeping the compound. Men were going to the farm. Women were setting up small tables and mats on the ground to sell peppers, tomatoes, fish, and beans. Amara watched how they carried themselves. They shouted their prices loudly, waved their hands, and laughed with customers. Amara stood at the edge of the market, trying to copy the way they shouted. "Fresh bread," she tried to call, but her voice was soft. A woman selling spices looked at her and laughed kindly. "Girl, people cannot hear you if you whisper," the woman said. "Use your belly, not just your lips. Say it like you mean it." Amara took a deep breath and tried again. Fresh bread, she called, louder this time. A man walking by looked at her, examined the bread, and nodded. He took 2 loaves and put down some coins. Amara counted them and realized he had given her less than he should have. "Sir, this is not enough," she said politely. He laughed and waved his hand. "It is enough for a poor girl like you." Amara felt anger rise inside her. For years, people bowed when they paid her any respect. Now someone was cheating her. Because he thought she could not do anything, she thought of what Mama Neneka said about speaking up. "It is not enough," she repeated firmly. "You took 2 loaves. Pay for 2 loaves." The man rolled his eyes and threw another coin into her hand. "You have a sharp tongue," he said as he walked away. "Be careful. It can get you into trouble." Amara pressed the coins together and hid them in her cloth. She felt a small victory. She would not let people walk all over her just because she looked poor. As the sun moved higher, the market became more crowded. Amara's head began to ache from balancing the heavy tray. Her feet hurt. Her throat was dry from calling out. She sold a few loaves. Some people tried to bargain too hard. Some looked at her with pity. Some ignored her completely. Near midday, the sky darkened suddenly. Thick clouds rolled in. In seconds, the wind picked up, and rain began to pour. People scattered, grabbing their goods. Some ran under the thatched roofs of nearby stalls. Others held banana leaves over their heads. Amara stood in the middle of the square, water soaking her blouse. Her bread was getting wet. She tried to hold the tray with one hand and cover the bread with her scarf with the other. Her foot slipped on the muddy ground. She gasped as the tray began to tilt. Before she could stop it, she felt hands steadying the tray from behind. "I've got it," a voice said. Amara turned to see a young man with broad shoulders and kind eyes. He wore a simple shirt and trousers rolled up to his knees. His hair was short and rain dripped off his face. He held her bread tray carefully. "Thank you," Amara stammered, pushing wet hair out of her face. "We need to get under that tree," the man said, nodding toward a large mango tree with thick leaves at the edge of the square. He guided her through the mud. They both ducked under the tree, panting. Water splashed around them, but the big leaves caught most of the rain. The young man looked at her and smiled. "You almost lost all your bread." Amara nodded, catching her breath. "I am still learning," she admitted. "Thank you for saving it." "What's your name?" he asked, shifting the tray so the bread would not get wet. "Nma," she said quickly. He nodded. "I am Toby. I tap palm wine on the hill over there. My mother is sick, so I sell some wine too. But I have never tried balancing bread on my head," he said with a playful grin. Amara smiled back despite the rain. "It is harder than it looks." They both laughed. It was a quick laugh shared under the mango tree, but it warmed Amara like the sun. When the rain slowed, Toby took the tray off his head and handed it to her. "Be careful when you go back out," he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 small coins. "I will take 2 loaves. My sister likes bread." Amara's hand shot out. "You have already helped me," she said. "I cannot let you pay." Toby shook his head. "Help is not payment," he said, placing the coins in her hand. "Your bread is your work. I must pay. Otherwise you will go hungry." Amara looked at him. He was not much older than she was. His clothes were simple. She could see his toes through his thin shoes. Yet he insisted on paying full price. She nodded slowly and gave him 2 loaves. "Thank you," she said softly. Toby smiled and tucked the bread under his arm. "See you around, Nama," he said. Then he jogged back into the rain, his feet splashing in puddles as he went toward a small path leading to a cluster of trees. Amara stood under the mango tree for a moment, watching him. Rain dripped from the leaves above, making a soft patter on the ground. She looked at the coins in her hand. They were wet and cold. She closed her fist around them. "So men like this still exist," she whispered to herself. Her heart felt strange, like it had expanded a little. She was not used to feeling grateful in this way. In the palace, people helped her because they were paid, or because they wanted favor. This boy had helped her because he saw her about to fall. When the rain stopped completely, Amara stepped out from under the mango tree. The air smelled fresh, and the ground was slippery. She walked back into the market. People were laying their goods out again. She sold the rest of her bread slowly. Some buyers were nicer now that they had all gotten wet together. Others were cranky because their clothes were soaked. By late afternoon, her tray was nearly empty. She gathered her coins and counted them carefully. It was not much, but it was honest. She balanced the empty tray on her head and began the walk back to Mama Aya's house. Her clothes were damp, her feet were muddy. She was tired, but she felt something different from the morning. A small thread of pride weaving through her. As she walked down the path, she saw Toby in the distance. He was carrying a long pole with small jugs tied to each end. He recognized her and waved. She lifted her hand in return. "Be careful of the stones," he called. "That path over there is smoother." "Thank you," she answered. She took the path he had pointed to. It curved around a small hill. She could see goats grazing nearby, and birds hopping from branch to branch. When she reached Mama Aya's house, the sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink, and the clouds looked like soft cotton. Inside, Mama Aya looked up from grinding pepper. "How was your first day?" she asked. "It was hard," Amara replied, setting down the tray. "But I learned a lot." Mama Aya nodded. "The first day is always the hardest." Amara sat on the mat. She picked up a cloth and wiped her feet. She thought of the man who had tried to cheat her in the morning. She thought of the rain, and how Toby's hands had steadied her tray. She thought of his smile when he insisted on paying for his bread. "I met someone kind," she said quietly. Mama Iya smiled. "There are kind people in the world. You just have to be patient to find them." Amara looked at her own hands. They were covered in flour dust and watermarks. She tucked the royal bracelet farther up her arm so it would not show. She lay down on the mat and closed her eyes. Her body ached. Her heart was beating slowly now. She thought of the small moment under the mango tree, when she had laughed in the rain. The memory stayed with her like a warm ember as she drifted into sleep. The next day, Amara woke before the sun. She lit a small lamp with a match and carefully tied her scarf. The muscles in her neck were sore from carrying the bread the day before. She rubbed the soreness and shook her arms. She did not complain. She was here by choice. She washed her face in a bowl of cool water, dried it on a cloth, and stepped out into the still dim courtyard. Dew wet the grass. The morning star still shone high above. She walked to the bakery corner, where Mama Naneka had arranged for her bread supply. The baker, a stern woman with strong arms, handed her the loaves in silence, expecting coins. Amara paid and balanced the tray on her head once more. Her neck stiffened under the weight, but she walked out to the main road. When she reached the market, the sun was rising. The smell of fried plantain and spices filled the air. She shouted, "Fresh bread!" Louder than the day before. People turned to look. Her voice still lacked the full strength of the other sellers, but it carried further now. She sold some loaves quickly. Around mid-morning, she saw Toby walking by. He was carrying a smaller tray with palm wine in calabashes. He smiled when he saw her and walked over. "Nama," he greeted. "I see you have found your voice." Amara laughed softly. "A seller in the market told me to use my belly, not my lips." "It worked," Toby said. He picked up a loaf, sniffed it, and nodded. "Your bread is good. Would you like to buy more?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not today. I have little money left. My mother is still ill. The herbs she needs are expensive. I have to sell more wine." Amara's heart tightened. She thought of the palace doctor and the many medicines stored in the palace cabinets. They were always full. She imagined Toby's mother lying on a mat, sweating with fever. She wanted to help, but knew she could not reveal her true identity or wealth. Instead, she thought of something else. "I could give you a loaf today," she whispered. "You can pay later when you have money." Toby's eyes widened slightly. He shook his head firmly. "No, Ma, I told you yesterday. Do not pity me. If I need bread, I will pay. If I do not have money, I will not take it. I am poor, but I am not a beggar. If you want to help me, treat me like a man, not like a child." Amara felt a small flush of shame. She realized she had thought she was being kind, but she had touched his pride. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I did not mean to offend you. I only thought." Toby's face softened. "I know, you have a good heart, but you must understand, men like me fight for every coin. We do not want charity, we want respect. Even if we have nothing, we still have our pride." Amara nodded. "I will remember." Just then, his younger sister, A thin girl with big eyes and a scarf tied on her head ran up holding a small bowl. "Brother," she cried, "Mama is asking for pap. She is hungry." She looked at Amara shyly and then at the bread. "This is Simi," Toby said. "Simi, this is Nema. She sells bread." Simi smiled. "Your bread smells nice." Amara knelt down so that she was at Simi's level. "Would you like to taste it?" she asked softly. She pulled a small piece off one of the loaves and offered it. Simi glanced at her brother. Toby hesitated, then nodded. Simi took the piece of bread and smiled. "It is good," she said, chewing. Toby smiled. "Say thank you," he urged. "Thank you, Ma," Simi said. "You are welcome," Amara answered. It warmed her heart to see Simi's eyes light up over such a small thing. She had never had the chance to give something small and see such joy. In the palace, gifts were grand and expected. This felt different. As the days passed, Amara and Toby began to see each other more. He would stop by her spot in the market for a brief chat. Sometimes, he would help her fix her tray when the rope started to fray. "Let me see," he would say, and he would take the tray from her head, tie the rope tighter, and set it back carefully. You cannot sell if your tray falls apart. Other times, she would help him read simple words from a tattered book his sister brought from the missionary school. They sat under the shade of a tree at noon when the market quieted. Simi sat between them, listening. "Fish," Amara read slowly, pointing to the letters. "Fish, fish," Toby repeated. "Fish." His brow furrowed. "It is strange to see letters turn into words." "You will get used to it," Amara said with a smile. She remembered the Queen's tutor, who had taught her to read by making letters into stories. She thought of how far she had come, from sitting on a silk cushion with a quill, to squatting on the ground with a small piece of charcoal. When Amara got better at balancing the tray, she began to practice walking faster. One day, Toby watched her from a distance. He chuckled and clapped slowly as she swayed back and forth, trying to keep the bread steady. "You look like a baby bird learning to fly," he teased. Amara stuck her tongue out and laughed. "At least I do not look like a goat carrying wine jugs," she shot back. They both laughed loudly. People in the market turned and smiled. It felt natural. It felt like friendship. One afternoon, when the heat was so heavy that the air seemed thick, Toby sat down beside Amara on the bench under a tree. They watched the market vendors fan themselves with pieces of cardboard. A boy chased a chicken through the crowd. The smell of fried fish floated in the air. "Ma," Toby said suddenly, his tone softer. "Where is your family?" Amara stiffened. She had been waiting for this question. She had told herself she would have to answer it at some point. She swallowed and looked away toward the distant hills. "They are far away," she said. "I needed to come here. I needed to work, that is all." Toby turned his head, studying her. His eyes were serious. "You always speak carefully," he said. "You never talk about your parents or brothers or sisters. Are you running from someone?" Amara's throat tightened. She could not tell him the truth. Not yet. It would end everything. She chose her words slowly. "I came here because I want to see the world differently," she said. "I do not want to be told who I am supposed to be. I want to find out who I am on my own. That is all I can say." Toby looked at her for a long moment. His eyes searched her face. Then he nodded slowly. "Everyone has things they do not want to say," he said softly. "I will not push you. But if anyone ever chases you, come to me. You have a friend here, Nema. Until your family comes for you, you are not alone in this village." Amara's chest tightened with emotion. No one had said such words to her. People had always told her she was special because she was royal. They had never told her she was safe because they cared. She looked down and blinked away tears. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, when she returned to Mama Aya's house, she pulled the royal bracelet from her arm. She ran her fingers over the small crest. It glinted faintly in the low light. She thought of Toby's kind eyes, and the promise he had made to her. She thought of her father, and his worried gaze when he had given her the bracelet. She slid it back up her arm and tucked it under her sleeve. She lay down and looked at the ceiling. In the days that followed, the rhythm of village life became familiar. The heat in the afternoon, the chatter of women bargaining, the laughter of children playing, the smell of palm wine and roasted corn. Amara was still a stranger in many ways, but she no longer felt lost. She sold bread in the morning, learned names in the afternoon, and talked with Toby when he passed by. She made small friends. Mama Ogechi, who sold peppers, Uncle Obi, who carved wooden spoons, the twins Chika and Ikenna, who liked to play hide-and-seek behind her legs. Every day, she grew more aware of the differences between her old life and this new one. When a man dropped coins on the ground and told her to pick them up, she felt anger, but remembered her father's words about safety. She bent down and collected them calmly. When a woman yelled at her for standing too close to her stall, she apologized and moved away, swallowing the pride she had as a princess. When a child bumped into her and nearly knocked over the tray, she laughed instead of scolding, because she remembered playing freely in the palace courtyard. But there were also moments of joy. One day, Mama Ogechi needed to send a message to her sick sister in another village, and Amara offered to go. She delivered the message and returned to find a small bowl of warm pepper soup waiting for her. "Thank you for your kindness," Mama Ogechi said, smiling. Another evening, after the market had closed, Toby came by Mama Aya's house with a little bouquet of wildflowers. "For Mama Aya," he said shyly. "I see her working so hard every day." Mama Aya took the flowers and her eyes softened. "You are a good boy," she said. "May your mother heal quickly." He smiled and left. Amara watched him go. She felt something stirring inside her, something she tried not to name. It was not just gratitude. It was not just admiration. It was something more. It scared her. She turned back into the house, busying herself with sweeping the floor. As she swept, she thought about her mission. She had come to the village to find a man who treated her well when she had nothing. She had found someone kind, but he had nothing and wanted nothing from her. Could she ever be with him? She thought of her father and mother. She thought of Lord Keene. She thought of the endless suitors. The weight of the tray on her head seemed lighter than the weight of the decision in her heart. News travels in strange ways. In the palace, the queen had grown impatient. She wanted her daughter married. She whispered to the king every night, listing names of powerful families. Lord Keene, hearing that the princess remained stubborn, began to suspect something was wrong. He sent his servant Jide to follow whispers, to listen in taverns, to watch the edges of villages. A servant returned with a strange rumor. A new bread seller had appeared in the nearby village of Umadara, a girl who spoke like a noble and carried herself differently. "Find out who she is," Lord Keene ordered. He could not bear the idea of losing the princess to someone else, especially if she had run away. One afternoon, the sound of horses' hooves echoed on the path leading to Umadara. People paused what they were doing and looked up. Dust rose as Lord Keene rode into the village with 2 guards. He wore a fine tunic even in the heat. His horse was decorated with leather tassels. Villagers whispered to each other. Some moved out of his way, bowing slightly. Others stood at their stalls, eyes wary. Amara was by the market, selling bread. Her back was to the road. She heard the sudden hush and turned slowly. Her heart jumped when she saw Lord Keene. He was larger than life in the small market, his posture stiff, his expression one of boredom and disdain. Her hand instinctively pulled her scarf lower over her forehead. She faced forward and hoped he would not notice her. Lord Keene walked through the market, looking at each seller as if they were objects. He stopped in front of Mama Ogechi's stall and picked up a pepper, then threw it down when he felt a tiny hole. He frowned. "Is this what you people eat? Worms and dust?" he said loudly. Mama Ogechi lowered her eyes, biting her tongue. He moved on. People kept quiet. When he reached Amara's bread stall, he paused. He looked at the bread, then at her face. His eyes narrowed slightly. He did not recognize her yet, but something about her posture and tone stood out from the other sellers. "How much for your bread?" he asked. Not because he wanted to eat, but because he enjoyed making poor people speak. 2 coins for 1 loaf, Amara said softly, keeping her head bowed. She felt a chill run down her spine. Lord Keene picked up a loaf and squeezed it. He took a bite. He chewed slowly, then made a face. "Too dry," he declared loudly, and threw the half-eaten loaf onto the ground. It landed in the dust. Flies buzzed around it. Amara clenched her teeth. She fought the urge to scream at him. She lowered her eyes and said, "You have taken a loaf, please pay for it." Lord Keene turned to his guards and laughed. Did this poor bread girl just ask me for money? He asked in a mocking tone. The guard snickered obediently. Little one, he said, leaning closer to her, his voice dripping with false sweetness. You should be thanking me for even tasting your poor bread. I thank you, Amara said, forcing her voice to stay level. But the price is still 2 coins. Lord Keen's eyes flashed with annoyance. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a handful of coins, and tossed them on the ground at her feet. There, pick them up. Crawl if you have to. Show me how poor people earn their money. Amara felt her face burn. For a second, she thought of her father, of the crest hidden on her arm. She thought of how easy it would be to stand up and reveal who she was, to make him bow instead. But she remembered her reason for being here. She knew she had to keep her disguise. She began to kneel to pick up the coins, swallowing her pride, when a shadow fell across the scattered money. Leave them where they are, a firm voice said. Amara looked up. Toby stood in front of Lord Keen, his jaw clenched. She sold you bread. You pay her properly, he said. Lord Keen looked at him slowly, his eyes traveling from Toby's bare feet to his simple shirt. He laughed. And who are you? He asked. A friend of this poor bread seller. Do you plan to fight me with your bare hands? I will not fight you, Toby said. I will remind you that she is not your servant. You ate, pay her, or be gone. The market grew quieter. People turned their heads. No one had ever spoken to Lord Keen like that. Lord Keen's face darkened. Do you know who I am? He asked, his voice low. No, Toby answered calmly. I know who you are acting like. You are acting like someone who thinks money makes him big. But a man is not big because he has gold. A woman is not small because she is poor. Pay her and go. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone stifled a laugh. Lord Keen's pride was pricked like a thorn under his skin. He bent down slowly, picked up 2 coins from the ground, and slammed them into Amara's palm. His fingers dug into her skin. Take it, he snarled. It is all your dirty bread is worth. Toby took a step forward, his fists tightening. Lord Keen straightened and stared at him. Watch your tongue, boy, he hissed. You may be brave now, but I can return with 50 men and burn this market down. Amara held her breath. She knew Toby's nature. She knew he might fight, and she did not want him hurt because of her. She placed her hand on his arm and shook her head slightly. He looked at her and saw fear in her eyes. He exhaled slowly and stepped back. Lord Keen smirked. He turned and mounted his horse. Remember this, peasants, he called out as he prepared to leave. There are people who can crush you like ants. Be careful who you speak to. He kicked the horse, and they galloped away. Dust rose in their wake. People coughed and waved it from their faces. Toby watched until the horse disappeared beyond the trees. He turned to Amara. Are you all right? He asked softly. Amara's hands were shaking, but she nodded. Yes, she whispered. She looked at the coins in her hand. They were warm from Lord Keen's palm. They felt like poison. She wanted to throw them away, but she placed them in her cloth, because she needed the money for Mama Aya's rent. Toby sighed. He has no right to treat you like that, he said, anger simmering in his eyes. He is a noble, Amara replied quietly. Nobles think they own the world. You should not let him speak to you that way, Toby said. What could I do? Amara asked, her voice almost breaking. Do you want me to shout at him? To fight him? They could punish me. You could speak up like you did, Toby said. That was brave. More people should do that. But be careful. You cannot fight every rich man with your mouth. Amara looked at him. How did you know to step in? She asked. He shrugged. I was passing by. I saw him throw bread on the ground. My mother taught me that no food should be wasted. Only those who have never been hungry throw food away. It made me angry. Your mother is wise, Amara said. Toby smiled sadly. She is. I hope she gets better soon. I cannot bear the thought of losing her. They both fell silent. Amara thought of her own mother, the queen sitting in the palace. She had never seen her mother sick. She suddenly imagined what it would be like if she had to watch her mother suffer without medicine. Like Toby did, the thought made her stomach twist. That evening, as the sun cast long shadows over Umadara, Amara sat outside Mama Ia's house, cutting cassava for dinner. She glanced up and saw Toby walking toward her. You were brave today, he said, sitting on a low stool across from her. You were braver, she answered. They sat quietly, listening to children playing and goats bleating. Finally, Toby sighed. People like him only know power. They think kindness is weakness. One day, people will stand up to them. It may be messy, but it must happen. We cannot be afraid forever. Amara's eyes widened slightly. She was not used to hearing poor people speak about justice. In the palace, she had listened to nobles' plan to keep power. It was new to hear someone speak of change. "You have a big heart, Toby," she whispered. "You are not just a palm wine tapper." He laughed. "And you are not just a bread seller," he said. "Your hands are too soft. Your words are too careful. You hide something. I do not know what, but I know there is more to you than bread." Amara's heart jumped. She smiled to hide her fear. "We all have secrets," she said. Her fingers tightened around the knife she was using. She reminded herself to breathe normally. Later that night, Lord Keene sat in his large guest house, his servant Jeed by his side. He tapped his fingers on the wooden table. "There is something about that bread seller," he muttered. "Her eyes, her voice, find out who she is. I do not believe she is just a poor girl." Jeed nodded. "I will watch her and ask around," he said. Lord Keene leaned back and closed his eyes. He pictured Princess Amara in her fine cloth, her hair braided with gold threads. He then pictured the bread seller, her face half hidden by a scarf. He pressed his lips together. He did not like mysteries that made him feel small. He decided he would uncover the truth. And when he did, he would use it to make the princess accept him. He smiled to himself, a cold smile that did not reach his eyes. As the days passed, Lord Keene became more obsessed with the idea that the bread seller was the missing princess. He could not shake the feeling. When his servant Jeed returned with little information, Lord Keene grew impatient and angry. "She lives with an old widow named Mama Aya," Jeed reported. "She calls herself Ma. She sells bread every morning. She has no family here. People say she came a few weeks ago. That is all anyone knows. No one just appears," Lord Keene snapped. "She speaks differently, her posture, her eyes. She refused to crawl for coins. She is no ordinary village girl. We must push her until she breaks." Meanwhile, inside the clay house, Mama Aya noticed the change in the air. "Inma," she said one evening, "I heard a nobleman was looking for a girl who ran away from the palace. People say she might be hiding in this village. Do you know anything?" Amara's heart skipped. She steadied her hands. "I heard the same rumor," she said carefully, "but I do not know anything more." Mama Aya nodded slowly. "This village is small. Secrets do not stay hidden for long. Be careful." That night, Mama Naneka snuck into the village. She wore a plain cloth and kept her head low, pretending to be a trader. She waited until the market closed, and then slipped into Mama Aya's compound. Amara saw her in the dim light and felt a rush of relief. "Mama Naneka," she whispered, hugging the older woman tightly. "My child," Mama Naneka whispered back. "The queen is growing angry. Lord Keene is stirring trouble. He suspects something. He is asking questions about a bread girl. You must be careful. People like him are dangerous when they feel they are being played." "I know," Amara said, "but I cannot return yet. I have not found what I am looking for. Lord Keene showed me today how he treats poor people. I need to see more. I need to be sure of my heart." Mama Naneka sighed. "Your father worries. The queen pushes him to choose a husband for you. The marriage ceremony is being planned. They will force you to come back soon. You must end this before it is too late." Amara nodded. "I will be careful. I promise." As they spoke, Lord Keene's men sat in a dark corner of a tavern, listening. They saw Mama Naneka leave the compound and followed her. They noted where she went and who she spoke to. They returned to Lord Keene with their news. "A woman from the palace is meeting the bread seller," one guard whispered. Lord Keene's eyes gleamed. "Ah, so I was right. She is someone important. Tomorrow, we will threaten her. If she does not reveal herself, we will bring more men and drag her to the palace. She will beg me to save her reputation." The next morning, Amara went to the market as usual. She felt eyes on her. Men with swords stood at the far corner, leaning against a tree. They laughed loudly, but their eyes never left her. She sold bread and ignored them. After a while, one of them approached. He had a scar across his cheek. He leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Little bread girl, leave this village. If you do not, you will regret it." Amara's hands shook slightly, but she kept her voice steady. Why should I leave? I am not hurting anyone. The man smirked. Someone very powerful is interested in you. He does not like to be kept waiting. Go back to where you came from, or he will drag you out and shame you in front of everyone. He has enough money to buy you and your family 100 times over. Amara felt her stomach drop. She swallowed. I am not going anywhere, she whispered. This is my home now. Have it your way, the man said with a shrug. We will see what happens. Toby saw the man talking to her. He felt his body tense. He put down his palm wine tray and walked over. Is there a problem? He asked, standing between Amara and the guard. No problem, the guard said, stepping back. We were just having a friendly chat. It did not look friendly, Toby said, his eyes hard. It is none of your business. The guard replied and walked away, smirking. Toby turned to Amara. What did he say? He told me to leave, she said softly. Why? Toby demanded. What is going on, Amara? Amara shook her head, feeling tears prick her eyes. I cannot tell you, she said. Not yet. But I promise I will. Please trust me. Toby's jaw tightened. Trust is hard when secrets keep growing, he said. I am your friend. I told you I would stand with you. But you must also stand with me. If you are in danger, I need to know why. I will tell you everything soon, Amara insisted. I promise. But you must give me more time. Before Toby could answer, a shout went up. Lord Keene entered the market again. He did not bring his horse this time. He walked with 8 men. He wore a shorter tunic, ready for easier movement. His eyes locked on Amara. He strode over, anger on his face. So here we are, he said loudly. I hear you have been telling people you will not leave. Do you think you can hide forever? Do you think I am a fool? I do not know what you are talking about, Amara said, her voice low, her heart racing. Let us see if your tongue stays sharp, Lord Keene said. He grabbed her wrist. She gasped and tried to pull away. His fingers dug into her skin. Her sleeve shifted slightly, revealing a hint of the bracelet's edge. Lord Keene's eyes narrowed. He saw the faint glint and the carved crest. What is that? He hissed, grabbing her sleeve and pulling it up. The bracelet slid slightly, showing a tiny piece of the royal emblem. Lord Keene's eyes widened. A slow smile spread across his face. Well, he whispered, I was right. Amara's blood went cold. Her breath caught in her throat. She pulled her arm away and covered the bracelet. People around them whispered. Toby pushed forward and shoved Lord Keene's hand away from her arm. Do not touch her, Toby said, his voice shaking with fury. Lord Keene laughed, stepping back. You are very protective of this bred girl, he sneered. Maybe you should know who she is before you risk your life for her. She is not who she says she is. She lies. She plays with poor men's hearts. Toby looked from Lord Keene to Amara. His eyes were a storm of questions. What is he talking about? He demanded. Amara's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her secret hung like a heavy weight between them. She wanted to tell him everything, to throw away the mask, but fear held her. She feared losing him. She feared the consequences for her father. She began, then stopped. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes. Lord Keene smiled, seeing her struggle. No answer? Very well, keep your secrets. But remember, little bread seller, I know the truth now. I will use it when it pleases me, he said, turning on his heel. He signaled his men to follow. They left, leaving dust and whispers behind. That night, Toby came to Mama Aya's house. He sat on the low bench outside. His hands were clasped tightly. When Amara stepped out, he looked up. His eyes were full of hurt. Who are you? He asked softly. I am the same person you have been talking to, she replied, her voice trembling. I am still Enma. You are not, he said, shaking his head. You are hiding something big. Lord Keene saw something. He called you a liar. He said you are not who you say you are. Are you married? Are you someone's slave? Are you running from the law? What is happening? I cannot tell you everything, she said. Not yet. You keep saying not yet, Toby said, his voice louder now. When? When I get arrested because I defended you. When I get beaten because I stood between you and a noble. I have a sick mother, Amara. I cannot afford to be beaten for a lie. Tell me the truth. Amara felt tears running down her cheeks. I did not mean to hurt you, she whispered. I never wanted to bring trouble to you. You have already brought trouble, Toby said. Do you know what nobles can do to poor people who get in their way? They can burn our houses. They can take our land. They can kill us and nothing will happen to them. I know, Amara whispered. That is why I cannot tell you yet. I am trying to protect you. Toby stared at her. You cannot protect me by lying to me, he said. I feel like a fool. Everyone in the village sees us talking. They think I am courting you. If you are hiding from a noble, they will think I helped hide you. I will be punished with you. If you are a thief, they will call me a thief. If you are cursed, they will say I am cursed. Do you see? Amara covered her face with her hands. Please, just trust me, she said. It is not what you think. I am not a thief. I am not cursed. I am testing something I cannot explain fully. I promise I will tell you everything soon. Toby stood. His chair scraped the ground. Testing something, he echoed. Testing what? Poor people's hearts? Our kindness? Are we your playthings? Do you think our feelings are not real because we are poor? No! Amara cried. It is not like that, Toby's voice broke. Then explain. Because right now, it feels like you tested me like one tests a goat at the market. You watched me help you. You smiled. You took my kindness. And now you do not trust me with the truth. That hurts, Nema. It hurts more than you think. He turned away, pain etched on his face. He walked away into the night. Amara watched him go. Her knees felt weak. She sank onto the bench and sobbed silently, her tears falling onto her skirt. Mama Aya came out quietly and sat beside her. She placed a hand on Amara's back. Secrets have weight, Mama, Aya said gently. They pull at your heart. Soon, you will have to choose whether to keep carrying them or to drop them on the ground. Either way, there will be pain, but one pain heals and the other grows. Amara nodded through her tears. I want to tell him, she whispered. But there is a marriage ceremony coming. My father and mother want me to choose someone. Lord Keene will expose me if he can. Everything feels like spinning water in a pot. Life is like that sometimes, Mama Aya replied. You are young. You must do what your heart knows is right, even if your head screams against it. But do not wait too long. Hearts break easily when they feel ignored. Amara went inside. She lay on the mat and stared at the ceiling until morning. She thought of Toby's hurt face. She thought of Lord Keene's satisfied smile. She thought of her father's anxious eyes. When dawn came, she felt the weight of a new day on her shoulders. The sun rose slowly over Umadara, casting long shadows on the ground. The market buzzed with talk, rumors about the bread seller, and the noble were everywhere. People whispered behind their hands. She is a witch, one woman said. She is a nobleman's wife, another guessed. She is the princess, someone whispered, but laughed because it sounded ridiculous. People love stories. They tell and retell, changing details to make them more exciting. Lord Keene enjoyed the whispers. He knew the truth, or so he believed. He planned his next move carefully. He would not drag Amara out in public yet. He would use his knowledge to bend her to his will. He would show her that he could break her life with one word. Then she would be forced to say yes when he proposed at the palace. He decided to set a trap. He sent his men to call every bread seller in the village to a feast he was planning. I will buy all your bread, he announced. We will eat and celebrate. Bring your best bread tomorrow. The bread sellers were thrilled. They dreamed of the coins they would get. They cleaned their trays, kneaded dough, and whispered to their neighbors about Lord Keene's sudden generosity. Amara heard the news and felt dread. She knew this was not a kindness. It was a test. Lord Keene wanted to see her again. He wanted to catch her off guard. She could not refuse to go. If she did, he would suspect even more. She prepared herself. She prayed quietly in her heart. The next day, the bread sellers gathered at the edge of the market near the large tree. Lord Keene stood under a makeshift canopy, his servants carrying plates of meat and jugs of wine. He wore a smug smile. He waved at the villagers as if he were a generous king. Welcome, welcome, he called. Let us eat together. Let us enjoy life. The world is full of sadness. Today we eat, drink, and forget our troubles. The bread sellers nervously laughed and nodded. They lined up. Lord Keene went from person to person. He took their bread, tasted it, and spoke loudly about each one. He praised some. He mocked others. He enjoyed seeing them fidget. Then he reached Amara. He looked at her slowly, his eyes gleaming. You, he said. The bread girl with the sharp tongue. He picked up her loaf. He tore off a piece and chewed it slowly, making a show of tasting it. He clicked his tongue. "Not bad," he said. "Better than last time. Maybe poor girls can cook after all." Amara kept her face blank, her eyes lowered. "Thank you," she said quietly. Lord Keene smiled. "What did you say your name was?" he asked loudly, so everyone around them could hear. "Imma," Amara said. "Imma from where?" he asked. "From a far village," she replied. Lord Keene laughed. "From a far village," he repeated. "And where is this far village? The sky? The river?" "The north," she said. "Who is your father?" he asked with a smile, as if they were playing a harmless game. "My father died," she answered. "Oh?" He tilted his head. "How convenient. And your mother?" "She is sick," she said. "How convenient again," he said. "You seem to have no ties. You seem to belong to no one. That makes it easier to disappear without anyone asking questions." Amara felt anger rise. "I belong to myself," she said quietly. Lord Keene laughed. "We will see." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You know I know, bread seller. We both know who you really are. If you want your little act to go on, if you want your poor boy to keep his dignity, you will listen to me." Amara felt her mouth go dry. She glanced around. People had started to watch them. Toby was in the crowd. She could see his tall figure at the edge. He was watching with a frown. Lord Keene straightened and spoke louder again. "You did not answer my questions properly," he announced. "I suspect you are hiding something, but let us not ruin the feast. Eat, my friends!" He gave her a cold smile and turned away to another cellar. When the feast ended, the villagers returned to their stalls, whispering even more. Amara walked to a quiet corner, her head spinning. She leaned against a wall and closed her eyes. She felt someone approach. She opened her eyes and saw Toby. "Nama," he said quietly. "What did he mean? What are you hiding?" Amara looked at him. She saw the hurt, the confusion, the frustration in his eyes. Her heart ached. "I cannot tell you yet," she repeated, but the words tasted bitter. He shook his head, his patience thin. "You keep saying that. You keep secrets and expect me to protect you blindly. Do you trust me? Do you trust my heart? Or do you think I will laugh and abandon you if I know the truth? Do you think poor men cannot handle a truth that rich men keep?" "No," she said quickly. "I trust you. I do." "Then tell me," he said. She opened her mouth and closed it again. She could not force the words out. "Soon," she whispered. "Very soon, I promise." Toby's shoulders slumped. "I feel like a fool, Ma," he said. "Everyone is looking at me like I am chasing a ghost. They whisper about you. They whisper about me. I defended you against a noble. I told my mother you were a good person. Was I wrong? Are you even who you say you are? Were you just using me to test how poor people behave around you?" The truth cut her like a knife. Her eyes widened in shock. "No, I would never. I have feelings. I am not playing with you. Believe me, please." He looked at her for a long time. He shook his head slowly. "Feelings can be a test too," he said. "They can be used to make someone reveal their heart. It hurts, Nama. I do not know if I am angry or ashamed." Before she could answer, Lord Keene's servant appeared again. "Lord Keene requests your presence," he said to Amara. She turned. "I am working," she said, her voice hard. "He insists," the servant said. "Follow me." Toby stepped forward. "She is not going anywhere with you," he said. The servant laughed. "Do you speak for her?" he asked. "I speak for her when rich men try to bully her," Toby replied. "She is not your property." The servant looked at Toby, then at Amara. "Fine. Then you can both come," he said with a sneer. Amara and Toby followed the servant to Lord Keene's temporary guest house near the village entrance. Inside, Lord Keene sat on a chair, eating fruit and wiping his mouth with a cloth. He looked at them with amusement. "Ah, the brave couple," he said. "Sit." Toby remained standing. "We will not sit," he said. "Say what you want." Lord Keene's smile faded. "You, boy, are a fool," he said. "Do you know who stands before you? She is not Enma. She is Princess Amara, daughter of King Eziani. She left the palace to play with poor people's lives. She pretended to be poor to see how poor men treat women. She tested you like an experiment. All your efforts to impress her, all your noble speeches, were entertainment for a princess. If I reveal this to everyone, you will be a laughingstock forever. You will be hated by your own people for standing up to me." Toby's eyes widened. He looked at Amara. "Is he lying?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Amara felt her throat close. Her secret, the weight she had carried, broke open. Tears spilled over. She nodded slowly. "I am Princess Amara," she whispered. "I left the palace to see how men treat poor women. I never meant to hurt you. I swear to you, Toby, it was never a game. I needed to see if kindness exists outside of wealth. You were my proof. You were real. Everything I felt was real." Toby staggered back as if struck. He pressed his hand to his forehead. "You tested me," he whispered. "You used me. I defended you. I risked my life. And all this time you were laughing behind my back? Your father sat on a throne while you watched poor men scramble for coins to buy bread from you?" "No," Amara said, shaking her head. "I did not laugh. I bled. I learned. I love." She stopped herself, the word hanging in the air. Lord Keene leaned back and clapped slowly. "Well," he said, "the play is over. The poor boy knows the truth. Now, Princess, if you do not want this entire village to hate you and your father's name to be dragged through the mud, you will marry me. I will tell the king I found you. I will tell him you were humble. I will look like the hero. Your secret will be safe. Everyone wins." Amara looked at Toby. His face was pale. His jaw was clenched. "Do not do it," he whispered. "Do not marry him to save your secret. Let the truth come out. Let people talk. At least then, everything will be honest." Lord Keene's eyes narrowed. "You are brave, boy," he said. "Bravery is foolish when you have no power. Leave before I decide to have you beaten." "I will leave," Toby said, eyes never leaving Amara. "But know this, if you marry him, you will have chosen fear over love. If you marry him, you will have chosen comfort over truth. You will have chosen a cage over the open field. That is your decision. I cannot tell you what to do, but I know what I cannot do. I cannot love someone who lies to herself." He turned and walked out. His steps were heavy. Amara watched him go. She felt like her heart was ripping apart. Tears blurred her vision. Lord Keene laughed quietly, enjoying the pain. Amara turned to Lord Keene. "I will not marry you," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "I will tell the truth. My father will hear it from me, not from you. The villagers will know who I am from my own mouth. You cannot control me with threats. You will not get what you want." Lord Keene's face contorted with anger. He stood, knocking over his chair. "You will regret this," he spat. "You think your father will forgive you? You think your people will forgive you? You think your poor boy will forgive you? You will end up alone. Your father will marry you off to someone worse than me just to save his pride. You will beg me then, and I will laugh." Amara lifted her chin. "I would rather be alone than with a man like you," she said. "Leave me." He glared at her, then turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. When she left the guest house, the sky was heavy with clouds again. She walked slowly through the village. People looked at her. Some looked curious, some looked suspicious. She did not care. The weight of the truth now hung around her neck. But it felt different from the weight of a lie. It was heavy, but it was clean. That night, the drums at the palace began to beat. A crier walked through the main town, calling out, "Hear ye, hear ye! The princess must choose a husband at the next full moon. All nobles and chiefs are invited to witness. The king and queen will announce the suitor on that day." The sound reached the village. People stopped to listen. The next full moon was in a few days. Everything was moving quickly. Amara felt panic and relief at the same time. The truth would come out. The world would know. But would Toby forgive her? Would her father? She did not know. She only knew she would not hide anymore. The day of the marriage selection ceremony arrived like a storm. The palace courtyard was decorated with colorful cloths. The ground was swept clean. A long canopy provided shade for the nobles and chiefs. Small children ran around laughing until their mothers pulled them away. Musicians tuned their instruments. The air smelled of roasted goat and sweet wine. The queen wore a shimmering wrapper with gold threads and a heavy necklace. King Eziani sat on his throne, his face carved in stone. He looked tired. Villagers from Umudara and nearby towns were allowed to watch from behind a rope line. They wore their best clothes. Many whispered about the bread seller. "Do you think she is really the princess?" one man asked his wife. "If she is brave," the wife answered. "To come here and face everyone." Others looked around for Toby. They wondered if the boy would dare show his face. Some said he would. Others said he had left the village, ashamed. Toby did not want to come. He felt hurt and betrayed. He wanted to stay home with his mother. But Mama Toby, her voice weak but firm, said, "You should go. You should hear the truth from her lips. Do not let anger keep you from the full story." Toby kissed his mother on the forehead and walked to the palace. He stayed at the back, near the poor villagers, his arms crossed, his heart heavy. Inside, Amara stood behind a curtain with Mama Neka. She wore a blue wrapper with silver embroidery, but her head was bare. She had refused to wear a heavy crown. "The truth does not need gold to shine," she had said. Mama Naneka held her hand. "You can still run," Mama Naneka whispered, half joking. "I can hide you under my wrapper and we can go to the forest." Amara smiled weakly. "And live there as two old women?" she asked. "No, Mama, I must face this. My father, my mother, Toby, the villagers, everyone must hear it." Mama Neka squeezed her hand. "I am proud of you," she said. The drumbeat changed. The king's herald stepped forward and called out, "All rise. Princess Amara, daughter of King Eziani and Queen Adama, will now appear before the people of Okofia." The curtain lifted. Amara stepped out. Gasps rose from the crowd. Some women placed hands on their chests. Some men whispered, "It is her. It is really her." Toby stared, his breath caught. She looked both like the enemy he knew and like the princess he had only seen from afar. Her eyes were the same. Her voice was the same. It was the wrapper and the air around her that were different. Amara walked forward and stood beside her father. King Eziani looked at her with mixed love and disappointment. He wanted to hug her. He wanted to scold her. He did neither. He nodded slightly. "Speak," he said, his voice firm but gentle. Amara turned to the crowd. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice came out clear. "People of Okofia," she said, "I am Princess Amara. Yes, I left the palace. I disguised myself as a poor bread seller. I did not run away to disgrace the kingdom. I did not run away to shame my father. I left to find something I could not find in the palace. I left to see how men treat women when there is no crown to protect them." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some nodded in understanding. Others shook their heads, confused. "I have always been courted with gifts and lies," Amara continued. "Men came to me for my father's throne. They did not see me. They saw a crown. I wanted to see if a man could see a woman without gold. I wanted to see if kindness still existed outside the palace walls." She paused. She saw Toby at the back. She saw his face, half hidden by a woman in front of him. He did not smile. He did not frown. He listened. "I went to Umadara village," she said. "I lived in a small clay room. I sold bread in the market. I met people who were kind. I met people who were cruel. I met a man named Toby. He is a palm wine tapper. He helped me when I slipped in the rain. He defended me when a noble threw bread at me. He paid for bread even when he had little money. He taught me that respect is not about money or titles. It is about how we treat each other when no one is watching." She turned to Lord Keene, who sat in the front row, his face red with anger. "Lord Keene saw me in the village. He insulted me. He mocked my bread. He threw it on the ground. He tried to make me crawl for coins. He threatened me and sent his men to scare me. He grabbed my arm and tried to expose me. He found out I was the princess and tried to force me to marry him by threatening to shame me. That is the man who seeks the throne." The crowd stirred. Some gasped. The queen's mouth fell open slightly. King Eziani's eyes darkened. Lord Keene sprang to his feet. "Lies!" Lord Keene shouted. "She lies to cover her own shame. She is the one who ran away. She is the one who played with poor people. She should be punished." "Quiet!" King Eziani thundered, standing. His voice echoed off the palace walls. "You will sit and stay silent until you are asked to speak. Do not raise your voice in my court." Lord Keene sat down slowly, his jaw tight. He clenched his hands, his knuckles white. His eyes flickered between the king and the princess, calculating his next move. Amara turned back to the crowd. "Yes, I deceived you," she said. "I wore simple clothes. I hid my name. For that I am sorry. I ask for forgiveness. I hurt Toby by not telling him the truth sooner. I hurt Mama Aya by making her lie for me. I hurt the people who trusted me. I will spend the rest of my life making it right. But I have learned that truth is freedom. I do not want to marry someone who loves my crown. I want to marry someone who loves my heart." She looked at Toby again. Toby, she said softly, but everyone heard. I am sorry, I misled you. I tested you without your consent. I felt something for you. It frightened me. I should have trusted you. I ask you now, not as a princess, but as a woman, can you forgive me? The entire courtyard fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to Toby. He stood rigid at the back. His face was a mask. Inside, a whirlwind of emotions swirled. He remembered the first time he saw her under the mango tree. He remembered her laughter. He remembered the night she lied. He remembered the pain of feeling used. He felt the weight of his mother's expectations, the whispers of his neighbors, the looks of the nobles. He took a step forward, then another and another. People moved aside. He walked until he was standing in front of the rope line that separated the common people from the royal area. He looked up at Amara. Their eyes met. Tears blurred her vision. Princess, he said, his voice rough. I loved a bread seller because she was kind and brave. I loved Enma, who spoke softly and worked hard. Now I see she is a princess. My heart is torn. You tested me without telling me. You made me feel small. That hurt deeply. But I cannot forget the moments that were real. I cannot pretend the rain did not fall. I cannot erase the words we spoke. Do I forgive you? My heart is not ready to say yes, but I do not hate you. I need time. I need space. I need honesty. A tear rolled down Amara's cheek. She nodded slowly. I understand, she whispered. I will wait, the crowd murmured. Some clapped softly, some frowned. The queen looked embarrassed, but she remained silent. King Eziani stepped forward. He took his daughter's hand. It is clear my daughter has made a choice, he said, his voice steady. She will not marry Lord Keen. She will not marry anyone by force. She will marry when she is ready, and when she has found someone who loves her for who she is, not for her crown. Whispers turned into loud murmurs. Some nobles looked unhappy. They had hoped to link their families to the throne. Lord Keen stood again. This is madness, he cried. You cannot let a girl disrespect tradition. The people will laugh at us. They will call us weak. If she does not marry me, I will tell every kingdom what she did. I will tell them how she lied and played with poor men. Her name will be dirt. You have already shown what kind of man you are, King Eziani said calmly. If you wish to ruin your own name further, go ahead. We do not fear a man who cannot respect a woman. Leave my palace. Lord Keen's face turned purple. He started to speak, but the king's guards stepped forward, hands on their swords. He swallowed his words. He turned sharply and stormed out of the palace, his men following. People watched him go in silence. No one bowed. No one called out. His power left with him like a storm cloud passing across the sun. Amara looked at Toby once more. He gave her a small nod, a nod that said, I hear you, I am thinking. I will come when I am ready. She felt hope. It was fragile, like a new leaf. She would take care of it. When the ceremony ended, people spilled out into the courtyard. Some came up to the princess and whispered words of support. Some looked at her with curiosity, still unsure how to feel. Mama Aya found her and hugged her tightly. You are brave, she said. You did what many could not. Mama Toby came slowly, leaning on a stick. She looked at Amara with kind eyes. My son is wounded, she said softly, but wounds heal when there is love. Give him time. He has seen many things in his short life. He will understand if you show him your heart is true. I will, Amara said, her voice thick. I promise I will. Later, inside the palace, Queen Adama confronted her daughter. You embarrassed us, she hissed. You should have married Lord Keen and saved our name. Amara looked at her mother without fear. Our name is saved by truth, not by lies, she said. If you cannot see that, I am sorry. I will not marry a man who insults the poor. I would rather stay alone. The queen slapped Amara lightly on the cheek, more out of frustration than force. Amara did not flinch. She held her mother's gaze. Queen Adama saw the fire in her daughter's eyes and, for the first time, realized she could not control her. King Eziani took his daughter's hand later that night. I am proud of you, he said quietly. You showed more courage today than I have seen in years. We will face the whispers together. We will stand tall. The path you have chosen is not easy. People will judge, but I would rather my daughter be true than be a puppet. Amara leaned against her father and let her tears fall freely. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for believing in me. Life changed slowly after the ceremony. The story of Princess Amara and the bread seller spread beyond Okafia. Some kingdoms laughed and said the princess had been foolish. Others praised her for her courage. In Okofia itself, people argued about it in marketplaces and under trees. Many young women felt inspired. They whispered to each other about wanting to marry for love, not power. Some men felt threatened. They said the world was changing too fast. Elders shook their heads and said they had never seen such a thing in their time. Amara returned to the palace physically, but her heart stayed in Umadara. She spent her days visiting the markets, talking to villagers, and helping where she could. She no longer hid her identity. She wore simple clothes when she went out, but she carried her head high. Some people still looked at her with suspicion, but most smiled. They had seen her stand before nobles and speak the truth. One morning, she went to Mama Aya's house with a basket of rice and yams. "Thank you for taking care of me," she said, hugging the old woman. "I will never forget your kindness." "You took care of yourself," Mama Aya replied, smiling. "You just needed a roof. My house is always open to you." Amara laughed. "Do not say that too loudly," she joked. "I might bring my father, his guards, and all their horses." Mama Aya chuckled. "We will feed them yam porridge," she said. Later, Amara went to see Toby's mother. She brought medicinal herbs from the palace doctor. "These will help," she said, laying them gently on the mat. "Boil them in water and let Mama drink." Mama Toby looked at her with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "You are kind. My son has been quiet. He sits by the river and thinks. He is trying to understand his heart." "I know," Amara said softly. "I will wait for him." Every day, Amara walked through the village. She helped with chores. She carried water for an old man whose back hurt. She babysat children so their mothers could go to the farm. She learned how to weave baskets from Mama Ogechi. She learned how to pound yam with Uncle Obi. She listened to stories around the fire at night and laughed at jokes. Slowly, the villagers stopped whispering about her. They began to see her not as a princess pretending to be poor, but as a woman who cared. Toby watched from a distance. He saw her carry heavy buckets. He saw her laugh with the children. He saw her hands, once soft, become rough with work. He felt his anger soften. He remembered his mother's words about forgiveness. He thought the day under the mango tree. He thought of her apology in the courtyard. His heart battled his pride every day. One afternoon, he sat on a large rock by the river. The water flowed gently, reflecting the sky. He threw small stones into it, watching the ripples. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw Amara. She wore a simple wrapper and held 2 clay bowls. "I brought food," she said, holding out a bowl. "Would you share it with me?" Toby hesitated. His pride whispered to send her away. His heart whispered to stay. He looked at her face. It was open, no masks. He saw the girl he had met under the rain. He saw the princess who had stood before a crowd. He nodded slowly. They sat on the rock and ate in silence. The food was warm. The river made a soft music. Birds flew overhead. After a while, Toby spoke. "My mother is feeling better," he said. "The herbs helped. Thank you." "I am glad," Amara said. He looked at her. "You lied to me," he said. The words simple but heavy. "That hurt." "I know," she replied. "I wish I could take it back. I cannot. I can only promise never to lie again." He picked up a small leaf and broke it in half. "Why did you choose me?" he asked. "There were many men in the village. Why me?" "I did not choose you," she said. "My heart did. You were kind when no one was watching. You respected me when I had nothing. You taught me that power can be found in humility. You did not talk about yourself all the time. You listened. And you held my bread when it was falling. You did not have to, but you did." He smiled slightly. "It was good bread," he said. They both laughed, the tension easing like a knot being untied. The laughter sounded like their first laugh under the mango tree. It felt real. "Will you forgive me?" she asked quietly. "Not today, not tomorrow, but someday." He looked at the river. He thought of his father, who had died years ago. He thought of how his father had always said that forgiveness was like letting go of a heavy rock. If you hold it, it weighs you down. If you throw it, your hands are free. "One day," he said finally, "I will. My heart is not there yet, but it wants to be." Amara smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat in silence again. This time it was comfortable. The sun began to set, turning the river gold. Children shouted somewhere behind them. A goat bleated, and a mother called her child inside. Life continued. After a while, Toby stood. He held out his hand. "Come," he said. "Let's walk." Amara took his hand. They walked along the riverbank. They talked about small things. The best place to find wild mangoes, how to catch fish with bare hands, how funny Mama Ogechi looked when she danced. Toby told her about his dream to start a small farm. She told him about the books she used to read in the palace library. Their hands brushed occasionally. Each time, a small spark jumped between them. Weeks turned into months. Lord Keene left Okofia and never returned. He married a woman from a far kingdom who did not love him, and he grew fatter and grumpier. People forgot about him. Stories of Princess Amara and the palm wine tapper became legends. Some told the story to scare proud noblemen. Others told it to encourage young people to follow their hearts. King Eziani kept his word. He did not force his daughter to marry. He welcomed Toby into the palace one day, not as a suitor, but as a friend. He listened to Toby speak about farming. He offered him land to cultivate in return for teaching palace boys how to climb trees and tap wine. Toby agreed, but only if he could continue living in the village. He did not want to lose the morning sun on his face and the sound of goats bleating. Queen Adama took longer to soften. At first, she looked at Toby with disdain. "He has rough hands," she whispered to her husband. "He smells of palm wine." King Eziani laughed. "Our daughter likes rough hands," he said. "They hold bread steady when it rains." Slowly, Queen Adama saw the way Amara looked at Toby. She saw the way he spoke to her, not as a subordinate, but as an equal. She saw her daughter's eyes light up. She remembered being young, being in love. She remembered how her parents had forced her to marry the king because of an alliance. She sighed. "Maybe love is not as foolish as I thought," she admitted to herself one night. Time healed the wound between Amara and Toby. They spent time together, but they also had space. Toby worked on his farm, waking early and returning late with his hands stained with soil. Amara split her days between the palace and the village. She learned to ride a horse, to write letters to distant friends, to mediate disputes between villagers. People came to her with problems, land issues, fights between families, and she listened, remembering what kindness meant when you had nothing. One day, in the dry season, Toby invited Amara to a clearing in the forest where he had planted young trees. He had built a small hut there with his own hands. He lit a small fire and roasted yam on it. He waited until the evening, when the sun painted the sky with oranges and reds. "I want to show you something," he said when she arrived. She looked around, eyes wide. "It is beautiful," she said. "Why did you bring me here?" "Because I wanted to share something I built," he replied. "I did not take it. I did not inherit it. I built it. This is what I want my life to be. Simple, honest, full of work and love. I do not want a palace. I do not want servants. I want to work with my hands. I want to grow food. I want to see the sun rise and set every day. Will you share this with me?" Amara looked at him. She felt tears welling up. She thought of her father's palace, the heavy gold, the shimmering cloth. She thought of the small clay room in Mama Aya's house. She thought of the mango tree and the river. She realized she did not miss the palace. She missed laughter, honesty, and love. She nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered, "I will. But there is one thing I must say. I do not want to be a princess in name only. If we marry, I still have duties. I still have people who rely on me. I will serve my kingdom, not as a silent queen, but as a voice for the poor. I will not wear gold all the time, but I will not hide either. Can you accept that?" Toby smiled. "I fell in love with a bread seller and with a princess," he said. "I love both. I will never ask you to hide. But do not ask me to leave my farm either. We will build bridges between our worlds. We will make both work." They sat together under the young trees. The fire crackled. The roasted yam smelled sweet. They ate and laughed. They talked about their future children. How they would teach them to climb trees and to read books. How they would teach them to treat everyone with respect, whether they wore gold or rags. They stood facing the setting sun. Toby took Amara's hand. He looked into her eyes. "We started under a mango tree in the rain," he said. We ended here, in the dry season. Under young trees we will watch grow. Life is long. There will be storms and droughts. Will you walk with me through all of it? Amara squeezed his hand. Yes, she said. I will. The next day, there was no grand palace wedding. There were no gold chariots or thousands of guests. There was a simple ceremony under the same mango tree where they had met. The king and queen stood there, dressed simply. The villagers gathered. Mama Aya cried and clapped. Mama Toby laughed and wiped her eyes. Toby wore a clean white shirt. Amara wore a simple dress with a small necklace. They exchanged vows before their families and friends, promising to love and respect each other, to listen, to be honest, and to work together. After they said, I do, the sun broke through the clouds. It bathed the crowd in light. The villagers cheered. Children danced. Musicians played. Amara looked around. She saw her father smiling, her mother wiping a tear, Mama Naka laughing, and Toby's sister hugging her. She felt joy burst in her chest. It was not the joy of a princess sitting on a golden throne. It was the joy of a woman who had chosen her path and found a man who respected her heart. As the celebration continued, Amara and Toby walked through the village, hand in hand. They held a tray of bread between them, just for fun. Amara balanced it on her head and then passed it to Toby. They laughed as villagers cheered. So, princess, do you still know how to sell bread? Toby teased. Amara lifted the tray with a grin. I may even sell better than you now, she replied. Then prove it, he challenged, smiling. They both lifted the tray together and walked down the dusty path, offering bread to anyone who wanted it. People laughed and clapped. Some took bread, some just watched, enjoying the sight of a princess and a palm wine tapper walking together, sharing bread, sharing their lives. They turned onto the path that led past the river, past the farms, past the mango tree. They walked into their future, one step at a time, their hearts light and their hands intertwined.